Griselda, over to you.
Well, a very good evening to you, Tabiso. Live visuals from OR Tambo International Airport. You could see the President of the Republic of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, accompanied by the Health Minister, Dr. Zweli Mkhize, taking a tour here of Port Health at OR Tambo International Airport. Of course, breaking news just a couple of moments ago that interministerial task team, which had been tasked with managing of the country's readiness to handle the spread of COVID-19, basically announcing that the plans had been finalized.
And for all of our staff at the airport, the 38,000 people in hospital, we have special PPE disposable bins that, so for gloves and masks that are worn, they are taken off and put into these disposal bins. We're now going to go through to international arrivals.
Right, the President getting a briefing there from officials at OR Tambo International Airport. According to a press release that was issued just a few moments ago, the Health Department indicating that the preparation of the 122 South Africans who are currently residing in the epicenter of the COVID-19 virus in China will be evacuated. The statement also reads that they note that the originally government had received over 180 requests. That's very important to note, Tsepiso and Aldrin. Government had received over 180 requests from the citizens residing in Wuhan to be repatriated back to South Africa. So over time, and they say having made consideration of personal circumstances, some South Africans indicated to government their decision to rather stay at their respective commitments in Wuhan. So officially now that number is at 122. Live pictures from OR Tambo International Airport tonight. That official number now, 122 South Africans to be evacuated in Wuhan city in China. So that flight again will leave OR Tambo International Airport tonight at 2100 hours. And on board the flight will be a crew from the aircraft company and a total of 15 officials.
Mr. President, we do not have an aircraft that's arriving now, but if we had one, we're going to take you and the minister through to the end of the passenger loading bridge to just show you the second level of screening that is provided there. But at this point, which connects passengers from the right-hand side and the left-hand side, there's also an additional screening that takes place here. But very soon we're going to be meeting up with the Port Health team at their clinic as well as inside the isolation bay. So at this point, which is a convergence before passengers get to immigration, they are screened. And the last layer of screening, we'll show it in a bit, it takes place just in front of immigration.
Media attention, please.
All right, the President is still being taken through OR Tambo International Airport. As I was saying, on board the flight will be the flight crew from the aircraft company and a total of 15 officials from the Department of Health and the Department of Defense, that being military health. President will get another briefing here.
We are compliant with all of the measures that are communicated through the National Department of Health, and Tandega can then take the President through the screening and the various layers and what happens at this point. before we take just the president and the minister to the isolation facility and the clinic.
Okay. The screening, Mr. President, starts at the aircraft. So we have Port Health officials along with military health services assisting us with screening everyone coming from high-risk flights. And then we also have secondary screening happening here at the terminals. You have another screening happening just before immigration. Should someone be found to have elevated temperature, they're sent to our Port Health clinic for further clinical assessment. And also, we're not just depending on the temperature as well. We're looking out for signs. Your other signs that we have picked up: cough. If you're coughing, even if it's just smoke cough because you're a smoker, unfortunately we ask more questions, we interview you further, and then we take you also for clinical assessment. Should there be a need as well, because maybe the information that we have seen is showing an indication that maybe you might be a person under investigation, we then take a swab and send it to NICD for analysis. Depending on the risk as well, we may recommend self-isolation or quarantine, or rather we take you straight to a designated health facility.
And I think what's important to highlight to the president and the minister is that ordinarily would have provided the honorable president with gloves and masks, but given the fact that we're not interfacing with arriving passengers at this point in time, we felt that for this particular tour, we will not be focusing on that. Otherwise, the president and the minister would have been fully compliant with what we require in this area.
Yes, absolutely.
So perhaps the clinic, so members of the media, given the size, will not take inside the clinic. We'll take an image of how it looks outside, and then we'll then go back not far to the isolation facility.
Right, President Cyril Ramaphosa will now be taken through to the screening area here. And I think this is one of the areas that we will not be able to go through at this stage. All right, we are now being told that the media seemingly will... All right, the president being shown the thermal scanner at the moment.
For you, Minister.
And then you can screen me.
Yes, just beyond this line.
Standing in the right place.
Yes.
Well, the president will go through the thermal screening. At this point, there you go. All right, just another piece of important information at this stage, Aldrin and Tepiso. So the flight will stop over in the Philippines on the 11th. Mr. President. Very well. How are you, Mr. President?
Please, no cameras.
Oh, the SABC.
Interview documents speaking to the case definition. They'll ask you a bit more questions, looking at where you've been in line with the case definition, and we also have the travel history used at the clinic. So the clinician will then take you to the consultation area to take a swab, and then send that to NICD should you be in line with the case definition. Otherwise, you then refer to any treating facility.
Okay. Okay. That's very good. So they fill in the form. How long does it take to fill in a form?
No, it doesn't take.
It doesn't take long.
It doesn't take long. Just a couple of minutes, 2 minutes or so, and then
you're done.
you're done with
Okay.
that.
And we also, just to be sure, because we find that some people can be reluctant to share honest information in terms of travel
course.
history, so we check the passport ourselves just to verify the information. So as much as we'll ask, we'll also verify.
Okay. Very good.
Yes, the consultation.
All right, we're headed towards the consultation room now, the President being taken through a thorough process of what happens at OR Tambo International Airport in the event that a suspected case is being brought up.
This is if you are found to have elevated temperature in this
That's right,
environment.
yes, that's
but if you find you at airside,
Yes.
we will take you to the isolation room rather than bring you into the main terminal. So you also get to see the isolation facilities, more of a holding area before EMS can arrive to then move you to a designated hospital. Yeah.
Very good. How many people would be there?
Oh, shit.
That's how they minimize.
All right, the President coming out of one of the consultation rooms here at OR Tambo International Airport, walking through a thorough process of what will take place here at OR Tambo International Airport in the event of a suspected case here at OR Tambo International Airport. So one of the key aspects I have to mention as well is that the flight will stop over in the Philippines on the 11th of March for refueling, to rest and to restock, and essential foodstuffs also needed for the return journey. You would know, of course, that at this stage, relating to food supplies in Wuhan City, that certainly is a challenge. So it's quite important that that flight will stop over in the Philippines on the 11th of March. All right, the media not being allowed. All right, President Cyril Ramaphosa will head into the isolation ward at the moment. The media, of course, not being allowed past this phase at the moment. So what has happened so far, officials here at OR Tambo International giving the President a walkabout of exactly what would take place in the event of a case that is detected here in South Africa. Walking through the consultation rooms, you saw the President getting some screening there, and towards that direction is the isolation ward where he'll be taken now, where the media will certainly not be allowed. So I did indicate on the 11th of March the aircraft will refuel in the Philippines. There will be some rest there and restocking for essential foodstuffs, and that's quite important given the situation relating to food in that particular part of China. So after that stopover in the Philippines, then the aircraft will fly to Wuhan City, and that then will be the final phase of getting those South Africans from their various destinations. And according to information that was earlier communicated to us, they did indicate that some letters would be sent out to those officials or those citizens in Wuhan City, and it is then where they will be told where the pickup stop will be. All right, we're just waiting for a few moments now. The President of the Republic, Cyril Ramaphosa, is expected to emerge from the isolation room there, where you would have someone who would be isolated there in the event that you had that screening process that had taken place and found that that individual had been showing signs of a high fever. It looks like the President is about to come out in just a few moments. So the flight will leave Wuhan City. Now that's breaking news. The flight will leave Wuhan City in the early hours of the morning and land back in South Africa on the 13th of March. So the information that you had at this stage, let's chat now to the Director General, of course, acting at the Department of Health, Dr. Anban Pillay. Dr. Pillay, thank you very much indeed for your time. So it's happening tonight. The flight takes off to Wuhan City, but it will stop off in the Philippines. Take us through the process.
So the flight goes from Johannesburg to Philippines. It has to refuel. They will have a stopover, I think about 48 hours it's going to be, and then we'll move on to Wuhan. The students are ready. They will pick up the students, refuel, and then fly non-stop back to South Africa.
All right. Just talk us about how long they're expected to be in Wuhan City and what communication has been had with these students there in terms of pickup points and where they will meet.
So the Department of International Relations has been in contact with all of the students. By the way, they're not only students, they're also teachers and other people in the group as well. So they have their meeting point, which they've been using, I think, for other countries as well. And that's where they'll be picked up from, and they'll be taken onto the aircraft. The aircraft will be on the ground for 8 hours as a maximum. And once all the passengers are on board, they'll definitely get back to South Africa.
All right. Let's talk about the numbers. They've been fluctuating, decreasing as well. What is the official number now that this aircraft will pick up in terms of citizens in Wuhan?
The last number I received from International Relations is 121 that had confirmed they would participate and be coming on board. But I suppose when the aircraft lands, we'll find out exactly how many are going to be coming along.
All right. Has provision been made for that? Obviously, how much can this aircraft? Dr. Anban Pillay, I beg your pardon. We're going to have to move towards that direction. The president coming out of the isolation ward where he had gone to inspect their port health officials. The president also having his mask on, being given some gloves as well, not to basically all individuals going in there, not to contaminate that particular area itself. So official at this stage, 121 South Africans. Dr. Anban Pillay says if that number does increase, they would be able to certainly make a provision for that.
As we keep working with the president.
All right. Also breaking news, the aircraft itself will then return to South Africa on the 13th of March, an 8-hour stopover. And just an 8-hour stopover in Wuhan City. So not much time, you will certainly see. All right, we are not allowed to film at this time here, Mr. President. All right, you'd see the president still has his protective gear on. That, of course, being the gloves as well as the mask there. We're not allowed to film in this particular area. So the media really not being allowed in here. We'll move towards this direction. And once the president comes out once again, we'll be able to come back to you again. We're not allowed to film in this area. All right, back to you in studio.